All right, looks like we're live. Uh, Happy Sunday, everyone, wherever and whenever it is you're watching this. Be sure to get involved in the live chat throughout the live stream. I've got a poll already going, which I'll get to in a minute. And of course, be sure to put in your comments and questions, and I'll answer them as we go along. But today's live stream is all about planning an early season group ski trip. Just to provide a little bit of context here, if you were on last week's live stream, which was a 2-hour mega hangout with friends of the channel, Simon Burgess and Brad from Ride Vibes, 2 awesome snowboarding channels. Be sure to go check them out. And we were talking a lot about plans for this upcoming season. Brad in particular has a large group of people that they go off with, and here in Revelstoke, my adventures a lot of the time are solo based, but I do always enjoy skiing with the group, and never really had much of a consistent group to go with. Now, rewind back to last year, we were trying to organize a little bit of a pre-season trip with my work colleagues just before our ski season got going underway here in Revelstoke. And we're trying to do that again this year. I see a couple of comments in there at the moment. Joe's chimed in. Joe, good to have you here again, a regular of the live streams. And Richard as well. Yeah, doing well, Richard. It's nice and cooling down a bit here in Revelstoke. And we actually just had Lake Louise, just over the other side of the Rockies there, just had their first dusting of snow in the middle of the week. We had a little bit of a cooler period there, and that kind of triggered actually part of what the topic of today's live stream is about. We have a series of autumn's quite busy for us actually at the resort, because everybody's buying their tickets and planning their trips. So although the actual resort itself might be shutting down at the end of September, we're still going to be very busy in helping people plan and book their trips. And so there isn't too much time between then and then the start of the winter to I guess sort of do things together, and also switch off and get excited about the winter. But from sort of the middle of November till the start of December, we've got a couple of weeks there where things should be quite quiet. And this is when a couple of the resorts in and around BC and Alberta have started to announce their opening season dates. So I've actually put a poll already in the live chat. You will see there. And the question is, which resort would you pick for early season skiing? And the options are Lake Louise, which is based over towards Banff and Calgary, Sun Peaks, Big White, which are 2 resorts within British Columbia. Sun Peaks is near to Kamloops. Big White is near to Kelowna. So those are actually the options that we're looking at. Now, I've taken on the responsibility this year to organize this trip for us because I want to make it happen. It didn't happen last year. You might have seen last year my early season trip to Big White. That was meant to be like a big group trip, and it never did. And in the end, I just ended up going. So when you're starting out and looking at an early season trip, there's a lot of things you've got to consider, a lot of variables, right? The obvious question is around what's the snow going to be like, and just how much skiing is actually going to be open. In answer to the first question, you can't obviously predict too much on that. In our position, luckily we can kind of be flexible and adapt because we live close to the area. If you're flying out from overseas, it's quite hard to do, and you're probably going to look for somewhere a little bit closer. Ollie, thanks for joining. Good to see you in there. So we're just talking here about where potentially you would go for an early season skiing trip. I've put a poll in the live chat there, so be sure to cast your vote. So obviously snow, hopefully, if October turns out to be what it's forecasting, we're hoping that the sort of the mountains should start to get some good snow coming into October, which will start to build up some bases, and into November. The earliest opening date, I do actually believe, is, I did have these dates lined up here. You'll have to excuse me. I should have had these ready for you guys. That's poor on my part. So this coming season, Lake Louise is set to open on November the 10th, subject to obviously conditions. Now that would certainly be everybody's, I think, your first inkling would be to do that one because, okay, it's open the earliest. And everybody knows that in Alberta, it's certainly a little bit colder. So you might think there's a better chance of snow. However, the one caveat for us with getting to Lake Louise, as I discussed in the last live stream, is the travel. And this is another aspect which you got to consider when planning your trip. So to travel from Lake Louise is a minimum 3 to 4 hour trip, depending on what the conditions are like. And as we're heading now into autumn, to get to Lake Louise, you have to go over Rogers Pass on Highway 1. And there's a more and more likelihood that there's going to be more, sort of weather events that might delay getting to and from there. Our plan is to go over a weekend, go out there on a Saturday to ski at a location, ski again, maybe Sunday morning, and then be back in time to go to work on a Monday. So we've kind of, for the time being, shelved Lake Louise purely for the transport. However, if the reports as we get into late October about the snow conditions improve, we might have to relook at that. Now, I also said you got to consider just exactly what's going to be open. This early in the season, we're not expecting to be riding, tons and tons of powder and lots of open groomed runs. Sun Peaks and Big White, the other two options that we're looking for, are more family friendly ski areas. Big White does have a good contingent of sort of backcountry skiing areas, but this early in the season, I don't think that's going to be open. We're actually, to be honest with you, we're leaning with Sun Peaks because of the transport. For one thing, it's about 2.5 hours from Revelstoke to just outside of Kamloops. Kelowna, again, a little bit further to get up to Big White. It's probably 2.5 hours to get to Kelowna and then another hour. So although they're roughly the same distances there, Big White last year, there was very limited amount of skiing actually open in that early season. They decided to open a week early because they actually did have a considerable amount of snow, but they only had a small area open with about 2 or 3 runs and one lift. And if you watch back that vlog from early season, you saw just how early the bottlenecks were. If you've been to Sun Peaks is a little bit more spread out. A lot more things on offer there, and the main thing that's selling it to us for Sun Peaks is that it's a very much a resort village, and we'd like to sort of be able to stay somewhere where you can walk through the town very easily there, and maybe go out and have a nice night with all the staff in the group. So far, just looking at the poll here, guys. Let's see. So 33% of you are choosing Lake Louise. 67% of you are choosing Big White. Okay. So for those of you who have chosen those resorts, why have you chosen those? Let me know in the comments. I'm quite keen to know, why would you pick those for early season? Yeah, Big White. My impressions of it last year, I imagine that it's quite a real super fun place to go rip when everything is open. But it is also very, very close to Kelowna, so you do get a lot of the city group come in. Whereas I don't know, Kamloops gave me a little bit more of a laid back vibe. Some Peaks did. So I've talked a little bit about the variable snow conditions early on. I've also talked a bit about the amount of skiing. We're not hoping for oodles and oodles of runs to rip. This is a trip to basically, get out of Revelstoke. It's very easy to get sort of stuck in here. You've been working all winter. We just want to do something, and with skiing coming up ahead, why not? This would be the perfect activity to do that. So transport, I would say that is something to consider there. We're all going to be driving. There's no other major way to get to those resorts. There's no public transport in terms of trains. Coaches would be sort of far too long. We want to get in there, have a good time, and then come out. Now, the main other thing that we need to look at is accommodation, which, as a general rule of thumb, with all skiing components, the earlier you book, the better your prices are going to be. We are still, we're probably not going to actually pull the trigger on this booking until sometime in mid-October. So, chances are there might be an increase, but if we're going early mid-November, that there is going to be still a pretty good rate on available for accommodation during that time. In terms of the room types and what's available, that's another thing to consider. So that's something which I've got to go around and, I guess, canvas, which is going to be quite interesting. As someone who spends all the time actually booking other people's trip requests, it's going to be sort of taking a bit of time and, gathering in and taking that responsibility. I'd be interested to know, I don't know if Brad is on the chat today, but how they do that when they plan their trips. And then in terms of lift tickets, if we have to, then we will, try and book online in advance there. That's normally how you get the best available deal. We talked a lot in the last live stream actually about reciprocals and multi-lift benefits. Revelstoke is part of the Mountain Collective, which is also Some Peaks is also a resort there. So normally there's a benefit there where you would get 50% off the lift tickets. However, it's important to note with those discounts that it's only when both resorts are open. Now, Revelstoke doesn't open until December the 2nd. So we're probably not going to be able to get that benefit there. But we want it to be a real fun trip. I'm hoping that there's going to be, lots of things to do. As a reminder, we are looking at Some Peaks. That's what we're leaning to. And my impressions of Some Peaks as a resort were really impressive. Very European style feel to it. It felt very much like a Swiss or an Austrian resort with the pastel colors, the church tower right in the middle. I think it was actually purposely built that way. So, and I remember walking down it, and there was a place that was doing raclette, another place that was doing your sort of Canadian food, Italian, so a real mixture. So we should be able to have a fun time. I guess my question to you guys, again, a couple of you guys have voted in the live chats there. A lot of you leaning towards Big White. What are your thoughts on that? So why would you choose Big White? So that's that, guys. Now, has anybody been to any of these destinations there? Has anybody been to Lake Louise, Some Peaks, or Big White early? Let me know in the comments. So far we've got Ollie in the chat, Richard, we've also got Joe who's been joining. Thanks everyone who is joining. Do make sure to keep those questions coming. The more engagement the channel, the live stream actually gets, it helps. It works well with the YouTube algorithm, and YouTube looks to push it out to more people. So 4, 5, 6 people watching right now, guys. Feel free to say hi. Keen to know where you guys are from. Richard, Joe, you guys were all in the chat last week. That was a pretty awesome hangout last week, and enjoyed getting Simon and Brad on to discuss all things skiing for this winter. I'm looking at trying to get a couple of new people to maybe come on as well. Some other old friends of the channel, looking to get some guests on during the autumn months, just to mix it up a bit, and again, talk, share some stories. I think the beauty as well of an early ski season trip is it gives you a chance to, dust off any cobwebs in a pretty low key environment, right, where it's not going to be too busy, and you're under no pressure to ski super hard. Just a week or get a couple of days in before your actual main resort opens up. Going to provide a nice opportunity to just fall back into skiing, because those first few days are super hard on your legs, whether you're a skier or a snowboarder. Always a tough first few. But yeah, I mean, it's about that time now, right, where we all start looking at the mountain webcams. I know Europe's had some early season snow on a couple of the high areas. You start, just having a gander at one of the snow forecast websites, wondering if there's, early season snow. And the indications that we're having, hopefully, here is that it's going to be a cold and snowy winter here in British Columbia, which is good. Last year was tough, so I'm hoping that we do get a big one. We had in terms of visitors, and I think a lot of people are out and about post-COVID now, traveling to a lot of ski resorts, but definitely the snow could have been better. So on the poll, I asked you guys, to choose between Lake Louise, Sun Peaks, and Big White as an early season destination. The group adventure I'm trying to arrange here, we're leaning towards Sun Peaks, but no one's voted for that yet. You're all leaning towards Big White, and Ollie has put in the chat, I've always been interested in Big White. I've never done Canada early season, but has a large base area, so would expect lots of accommodation options. Yeah, expectations are correct there, Ollie. It's super easy to get to from Kelowna Airport, an hour's drive, pretty much straight up. So one of the things I love about Canadian roads is that everything is literally just in a straight line. It's like you take that highway or you take that highway and it gets you to where you need to go. So super easy to get up to Big White. And then when you get there, the choices are endless. And a lot of the accommodation does actually seem to be owned and run internally within the resort. So if you go onto the Big White website and you search the options, you'll see everything from hotels, your typical sort of basic self-catered style accommodations that you might find in the big French resorts. There's a lot of that modeling built just for sheer capacity. Private lodges or chalets, that there's an awesome set of those which have the hot tubs and everything. And so plenty of choice for the type of group. And that's definitely something which you've got to consider when booking these, right? Like if it's a group of lads, for example, you might not be too fussed. You're happy to get like a large, big self-catered thing, something that's just going to allow you to, cook a bit of food, store some beers, store the ski gear, and then maybe go out to the bars. Families, you might want a little bit more different quality, right? So all these variables to consider. But yeah, a very, very large base area. Driving up to it, I was really, really impressed with it. I would have loved to have skied more of it. It's just quite tricky during the season to make that commitment to maybe go as far as Kelowna. Silver Star is another option closer. It's in Vernon, so that's even closer than, let's say roughly about the same distance as Kamloops, but again, it's taking that time to be able to go. Also, Big White definitely has been around, I think, for quite a while. So they've got a lot of expertise there. Ollie, Google YouTube. If you watch my video on Big White, you'll see the Big White has its own resort song. It's a catchy song they made in the 80s. It's quite funny to listen to. Yeah, it's kind of like from another time. It's like you hear that and then immediately you're thinking like thin skis, turtlenecks, that old 80s retro ski vibe. It's quite funny to listen to, actually. Okay, so Ollie's leaning towards Big White. What about Lake Louise, guys? Someone in here voted Lake Louise. So what are people's thoughts behind Lake Louise? They lost their they've lost the downhill there this year. I don't think the FIS, the infamous Lake Louise downhill, is happening anymore on the circuit, which is a shame. Yeah, Ollie's going to check out the Big White song. Definitely something to do. I could sing it for you on the chat here, but I don't know. Don't want to embarrass myself too much. But it's a good laugh. Now, what other things would you guys consider when planning an early season group ski trip? What things are important to you guys? Joe's popped in for a bit. Quite busy, though. Got some work to do, but we'll catch up soon. No worries, Joe. I know there's lots of stuff going on right now. September's always like back to school, back to work. Everyone getting everything there, but you know where we are, buddy. So we'll see you another time. Thanks very much. See you soon. Richard, are you still in the chat here? How are things shaping up in Andorra? Any big news for you guys ahead of this coming season? A recommendation for you. If you haven't heard of the legend of the Grizz in Fernie, it's worth looking up. Okay. What's this? I'm curious. Are we talking a bear here? Like a grizzly bear? The grizz. Oh, it's an accommodation. Is that right? Yeah. Don't know why. I don't know why I thought that was a bear. The grizz inn. That looks nice. Real nice, actually. I kind of noticed a lot. Oh, it's a local religious figure. Well, there's definitely a hotel called Grizz Inn. But oh wait, the legend of the Grizz. Hang on, here we go. All right, I'm going to read this. I'm reading this from Tourism Fernie. In the midst of a cruel and bitter winter of 1879, a baby boy was born in a grizzly bear's cave high in the mountains. The child grew strong in the harsh conditions, and when the resident grizzly awoke, a terrible battle ensued between the two, the courageous boy fighting for his life and the ravenous bear for his dinner. The next day, the townspeople went into the mountains to try to discover the source of all the noise from the previous night and looked high and low for signs of struggle. One of the men thought he saw a little boy wearing a bear coat and hat, nimbly leaping from rock to rock. High upon the lofty peaks, his friends laughed at him and the incident was soon forgotten. But many years later, a group of intrepid ski tourers were boot packing on the peaks of the Lizard Range in the midst of a heavy snowstorm. There on the very summit stood a fantastic sight, a man with shoulders 6 feet wide carrying a musket 8 feet long. The bulk of man's estimate 300 pounds was made to look even more awesome by the bristly grizzly coat he wore. And now there's like a whole thing on it. So everybody, that's awesome. That's cool that there's like local legends like that. And they do a whole event around it. No, I like that. Yeah, local religious figure. And then they have a grizz day where everybody dresses up and it's kind of like, well, not kind of like that. In Revelstoke, we don't have any local legends. Like the game of Nar Day is definitely something that's been around, but post pandemic they've really clamped down on that, and there's like even for a small resort like Revelstoke, you get security there that'll, so they kind of clamp down on events like this. But it's a shame because like I think things like this are what make North American skiing really unique. And I think there's a sort of a special community right now for it. The idea is the Grizz shoots powder from his musket, so the locals worship the Grizz in the hope that he will bring powder to the slopes. Awesome. Yeah, like I don't know, I can't really think of any sort of things like that in Europe. I mean, obviously there's a very strong alpine culture in the central European resorts, like your Austrias and your Switzerlands, and I'm sure they've got little ceremonies. I mean, the one thing I always notice is when they bring all the animals down off the hills at the start, just before the winter. But Revelstoke, there's nothing like that. We've got locals days where locals who they try and make it a little bit more affordable, and they do heavily discounted tickets, rentals, and lessons, which is really good thing for the local community. It's cool to have a local legend. I mean, I don't want to sort of downgrade it, but obviously it does quite well from a marketing perspective for the area. So, yeah, good for them. Good for Fernie. Definitely on my list of ones to do if I had a little bit more flexibility during my my winters here. Who knows? Maybe in a couple of years or so. Ollie, are you getting yourself any new ski gear for this this coming winter? We were chatting quite a bit about what people were buying in last week's live stream, and I was just I popped into the local boots shop just yesterday actually, and was discussing potential ideas for a new ski boot. And I'm trying to weigh up right now what I'm looking for. I've got a ski boot that has served me for all my 5, 6 ski seasons. And now I'm like, well, I think I need a new set, but I'd like to get into some touring this year. And so I'm trying to weigh up, well, you know, do I need a brand new boot purely for some touring, or maybe get a bit of a hybrid option? You've got that dilemma too. But what are you looking at then? What are you leaning towards? Like I'm looking to pull the trigger on something, like make a decision on it probably come middle of October, maybe late October, just as a lot of the winter stock is going to be coming in. And then I don't know, like initially I kind of thought that I wanted a whole new setup for this year, but I'm not going to be heading out touring like oodles amounts straight away. I kind of thought about this since, and it's like I'm probably going to do 1 or 2 trips. So yeah, maybe I actually rent skis to begin with, but get some boots and start to build out a sort of a backcountry backpack. I got a pretty good North Face slack country one, but things like your probes and your Avi transceivers, those are maybe gear which it's worth probably investing in for this year. What about anyone else, guys? I know there's a couple of other people watching. Who else is looking at getting ski gear for this year? Anything, gloves, goggles, clothing. I think the new Dope clothing line is about to drop soon. So I'm quite interested to see what that all looks like. To be honest, I've not gone into any specifics yet. My current boots don't actually fit me anymore, so I need to change the bindings on my skis, and it depends what the size difference is as to the fate of my skis. Right, okay. So you might have to like completely re-add the binding, like subject to your boot size. Is that what you're saying? I've done that a few times on previous skis, and you can only do it so many times before it's like you position the binding back or forward an inch or two, and then by the end of it, it's just like your positioning on the ski is totally out of whack. So either way, though, Ollie, you're looking to get a new set of boots, and then you're going to sort of worry about the skis later. I think that's what you're saying, right? I'll have to redo the bindings. It is just that if the holes are far enough away from the current holes, I don't want to have to drill right next to the existing holes in skis, as naturally that won't work. Yeah, it's a dilemma. I don't know whereabouts in the UK you are, Ollie, but I'd highly recommend Google, like doing some looking into or reaching out to. There's a company in the Lake District called Anything Technical, and they're probably sort of just my opinion, they're the number one shop in the UK for helping out with skis and bindings, boot fittings, all this. Especially with doing the bindings. I went up there during COVID and did like a ski tech course with them, and they do a lot on what they do with putting those holes in the bindings, and yeah, it's like there's only so close you can drill the next hole, right? And then by a certain point, the ski just becomes obsolete. So you definitely want to get that right if you're redoing the bindings. I know I'd really like to get a new ski as well this year. It just sort of depends what the budget is, and I've not researched the skis too much yet. There's a lot of this year's range is just starting to come out, but then in town there's a lot of the shops that are selling a lot of last year's skis without bindings, about sort of 50-60% off. But then there's a couple of pro deals links that I've got, and I'm like, keen to see what is out there. Unfortunately, lakes are too far. I'm in Sussex, so thinking of a shop called Captain's Cabin in Sevenoaks. Nice. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there's some pretty good shops down south there as well. But yeah, it's definitely something you want to get right. I'm hoping to actually do a video on this boot fitting. Got the dog going crazy in here. Yeah, and kind of show what the process is like from start to finish. Going to the snow show in London when it's open in October time to do some research. Bear with me. Louise, what? I know, looking for maybe looking for some grizzly bears. I don't know. Man, I really would love to have gone to the snow show since it's got back up and running. Yeah, that'll be good because you'll have all sort of the main outlets, the main brands in and around the UK scene to go and take a look at. That's what's so good about these snow shows in the UK is that it kind of is, I don't know, it kind of flicks a switch in the British snow community and says to them, right, now's the time to start getting excited about the winter. But it's a new program though, right? It's not, they're not doing it in Battersea Park anymore, are they? Because that I think was initially run by the Telegraph, and then around COVID time they sort of pulled out on it. So I think it's a new company that's running a new show down there. I've been wanting to get involved with the show up at Birmingham, which I think is awesome that they're now doing a show up in the Midlands to reach out to that community, because obviously commuting down to London is costly. But yeah, trying to do things from the other side of the world is quite tough. But hey, no, but it's changed organizers now. They have one in Birmingham and then one in London, and then one is happening at XL. Yeah, I know the one that's being run in Birmingham is by Raccoon Events. Like they're the sort of the main company running that. But then yeah, I think there's it's almost like a separate company running a totally separate event for the London market, which I don't know, when you think about it, it kind of makes sense really. But yeah, the XL Centre, that'll be big. Again, these are like the things that I do kind of miss from time to time being out here, is like being able to go to these style events. Actually, Raccoon Events, the one where Reach did just ask me about maybe if I wanted to attend an event in the US in Boston. We were having like an initial early chats about that, but I was like, logistically, I didn't know if that was going to be possible. But the events are great, right? Because I loved it because you just visually, right? You get in the mind for the ski season, whether that's like looking at equipment or seeing ski videos, or there's a pro athlete, or someone from the media, or it's like a resort destination that's out there canvassing. Like the last ones I went to, like they were pushing Japan massively pre-COVID. That was like the big thing they were trying to push to the UK market. Yeah, Ollie, let me know how that goes. Keen to see what people think of those events. So it was a bit of a quiet stream today. Not too much else going on. Just recapping here. So at the start, I was talking about, planning an early season group ski trip for the staff in our department. We're looking at Lake Louise, Sun Peaks, and Big White, leaning towards Sun Peaks. And I put a poll in there to ask you guys what you thought of it. Sun Peaks hasn't actually had any uptick at all. Most people are leaning towards Big White right now, which I can understand why you'd be leaning towards Big White. Sun Peaks, just as a reference though, is Canada's second largest ski area, so definitely something to bear in mind in your doing your research. The one thing that really impressed me about Sun Peaks was how efficient their Peace Basher, their groomer network was. Like right at the end of the season when I went in my first winter here, I've never seen runs groomed so perfectly across the entire mountain. Literally, like every single run was groomed, and there was nobody there. But I don't think there's as much accommodation choice in Sun Peaks as there is in Big White, which Ollie pointed out that Big White does appear to have a lot more choice on that front, which is true. And you want as much choice as possible, right, to give you the best options of finding a good deal, whether that's early season or main season. Lake Louise for us, I don't know. Like I'd love to go there just because I went as a young kid. I don't really remember much of it. It's got that awesome wooden lodge at the base of the hill. But more and more when people tell me there's not actually that much else to do in Lake Louise, there's not like there's a resort village or a town or anything like that. It is just that main lodge at the base there. Still pretty awesome place for the scenery. You've got the big chateau and the lake. But yeah, I'll keep you guys informed on this. Hopefully I can do a bit of a video on it, get an early season trip going. I want to hear from you guys. Anybody who's made any particular plans yet for the winter? Anyone else made anything concrete? Ollie, I know you were discussing a couple of options in previous chats. Let's see who else we had on here. We had Richard join in a little earlier as well. We had Joe, of course, although I think Joe's popped out. A couple other guys watching. I think we got so. These live streams are still a bit new to me. I'll be honest with you guys. I kind of feels like I should always be talking. It's like I've watched a couple of the live streams, and it's like there's a bit more of a, I don't want to say natural, but there's a bit more flow, but with like the questions. And maybe I guess that just comes with doing this more frequently, which is why I've started this quite ahead of the winter. Hopefully by the time we get into the winter, we've got a, everybody's dialed in for the ski season, and we can get things rocking. Got to make sure not to get injured in an early season group ski trip. That's one thing which, Touchwood has been pretty lucky so far during my ski seasons, but I know plenty of people who have, caught a tree stump or a rock and have done an injury. So wherever we do go, it's less about skiing hard and more just getting out there, getting the body used to being on the snow again and just having a bit of a good time and maybe enjoying some drinks. I think we're going to wrap it up here, guys. Unless anybody's got any more questions, anything in particular about group season, group ski trips, anything for this coming winter on gear. Obviously, we'll be back again next Sunday. I won't be on. I'll try and go live Monday. I should hopefully have a more detailed update on the visa situation within the next 7 to 10 days. It is still pretty squeaky tight right now, shall we say. It's not all completely clear, although I've been trying to get to the bottom of things. I'm confident that I am still going to be here, but waiting to pull the trigger on another permit application next week. But appreciate those guys who've tuned in to watch, and again who've engaged with the poll and the comments in the live chat. So Joe, Richard, Ollie, all you guys, thanks so much. Appreciate you popping as always. Thank you to anyone who's been watching for the first time. If you did enjoy this, please make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And now if you are watching afterwards, you can put your comments in the regular section there and I'll get back to them. And yeah, I'll touch base with you guys hopefully next week, if not the week after. Best of luck with the visa. Thanks, Ollie. Yeah, hoping this running stressful saga is going to be over soon, and then I can just focus on putting out winter content for you guys, showcasing the beautiful Revelstoke. That's what I want to do. All right. Have a good rest of your Sunday, guys. I'll see you next week.